Good morning and welcome to Sunday School at Home once again. Last week we talked about angels and the big part that they played in the whole Christmas story. And I also told you that we'd talk about a special star this week as well. And that star was the star that some wise men followed, and they knew that that star would lead them to a new king. They didn't really know exactly who he was, and we don't really know what the star was, but they did follow it, and they found him, and they worshiped him, and they gave him gifts. But that was later on when Jesus was a little bit older. He was maybe a toddler, not a little tiny baby. So this time we're going to now go back and talk about the actual nativity. So you've probably heard that word before. The nativity is actually something that represents, it's either a picture or a carving or a model of the whole scene of Jesus's birth, which, if you remember, was in a stable. And a stable is like a barn, a place that they kept animals, because again, there was no room for them when they got to Bethlehem the night that Mary was about to have her baby, who was baby Jesus. So this is a nativity right here. And this one is made out of wood. Maybe you might have seen some nativities in people's yards with their Christmas decorations. And this is a very, very beautiful nativity that's in the front of actually our church. So now we're going to talk about the story of the nativity. And this book is called Mary's Christmas Story. This is taken from Luke, the first chapter, verses 26 to 56, and Luke, the second chapter, verses 1 through 20. Young Mary lived in Nazareth, a town in Galilee. She was a girl who tried to serve the Lord most faithfully. As Mary sat quietly in her home one night, the angel Gabriel appeared, shining oh so bright. There's that angel Gabriel again, who was that big, strong angel. "Greetings," said Gabriel, "you're favored by the Lord." Mary felt afraid and trembled at his words. But the angel gently said, "Mary, do not fear. God is very pleased with you, and he sent me here. You will have a baby named Jesus, God's own son. He will sit on David's throne, ruling everyone." Mary didn't understand. She said, "How can this be? I'm still a virgin. I'm not married yet, you see." Gabriel said, "God himself will cause you to conceive. Nothing is impossible with God. You may believe." So conceive means to get a baby in her tummy. Your relative Elizabeth, who's old and worn, is finally a mother. Her child will soon be born. "I am my good Lord's servant," Mary then did say. "May your words all happen as you have said today." Then Mary went on a journey far from Nazareth. When she saw her cousin's home, she cried, "Elizabeth!" As Mary spoke, Elizabeth felt her baby boy leaping high within her tummy, jumping up with joy. Elizabeth knew right away that Mary was the one God had chosen as the mother of his only son. Mary said, "The Mighty One has been so good to me and to all of Israel. He's come to set us free." Mary stayed there visiting until 3 months were gone. Then Elizabeth gave birth to a son, and his name was John. And then King Caesar issued this command: "A census will be taken throughout all the land." A census is when they're going to count all the people that live in a certain place. So Mary and Joseph had to pack and travel down to Bethlehem, since it was Joseph's family town. When at last they arrived in tiny Bethlehem, every room was full. There was no room for them. Finally, an innkeeper invited them to stay in his barn where they could sleep on the oxen's hay. Soon the time came for the baby to be born. Mary swaddled him in clothes so he was snug and warm. So swaddling means wrapped him up in some pieces of cloth, nice and cozy. There was no crib or cradle for baby Jesus' bed, so Mary gently laid him on the manger's hay instead. She has a little crib right in the hay. As Mary gazed upon the face of her newborn son, some shepherds came in saying, "He must be the one." And then they told their story. We were out watching the sheep. It was dark and quiet. We were half asleep, and suddenly we saw a sight that jolted us awake. An angel so glorious, our knees began to shake. We fell down upon the ground, trembling in fear. The angel said, "Don't be afraid. I bring news of good cheer." And there's those angels again that we talked about last lesson. In the town of Bethlehem, God's son was born today. You will find him wrapped in cloth in a manger's hay. Next we saw a host of angels lighting up the sky, lifting up their voices to the Lord Most High. They said, "Glory to the Lord, peace on earth to men." Then the angels vanished, and it was all dark again. At first we all just stood there, and then we began to shout, "Let's go see the child the Lord told us about." So that's when they ran down and found it all as the angel had said. Here's the baby wrapped in cloth in his manger bed. Then the shepherds went around telling everyone, God has sent a Savior, Jesus, his own son. The people were amazed in crowded Bethlehem. Could this baby be the king God had promised them? Mary treasured all of this deep within her heart, thanking God for using her for such a loving part. So Mary was very young and very poor, and she was so surprised that God decided to use her. But God worked through a humble young girl, and she loved God. He used a carpenter and a powerful Roman ruler and many others to accomplish his plan of sending his son to be our Savior. Then he had promised that the Savior would come many, many years ago in the Old Testament. So that's why at Christmas time we see nativities, we celebrate Jesus' birth, and especially because if we have Jesus in our heart, we're really, really thankful and really joyful and really happy to celebrate Christmas. So continue celebrating Christmas, and I'll see you again next week for Sunday School at Home. Bye.